Schatz, Senator Schatz. Sorry, apologies.
No problem, Chairman. Thank you for being here. I just want to follow up on the Chairman's question and a sort of, it may be an emerging consensus on the committee. Okay. I don't think there's anybody, even on this side of the dais, that's proposing a sort of European-style pre-approval. I think there are some people who would like to do nothing at all in the regulatory space, but I think most people understand that some guardrails, those are the words that you use, Mr. Altman, rules and guardrails are necessary. Are you saying that self-regulation is sufficient at the current moment?
No, I think some policy is good. I think it is easy for it to go too far, and as I've learned more about how the world works, I'm more afraid that it could go too far and have really bad consequences. But people want to use products that are generally safe. You know, when you get on an airplane, you kind of don't think about doing the safety testing yourself. You're like, maybe this is a bad time to use the airplane example. But you kind of like want to just trust that you can get on it.
It's an excellent time to use the airplane example. But I think your point is exactly right, is that, look, there is a race, but we need to understand what we're racing for, right? And it also has to do with American values. It's not just a sort of commercial race so we can edge out our near-peer competitor, both in the public sector and the private sector. We're trying to win a race so that American values prevail internationally. Mr. Smith, I want to move on to another topic. It seems to me that on the consumer side, that one of the most basic rights of a user on the internet is to understand what they're looking at or listening to, and whether or not it was created solely by a person using an AI, or automatically generated using AI. Do you think a labeling regime, not a prohibition on the use of AI, but just a disclosure, especially as it relates to images, music, creativity, do you think a label would be helpful for consumers?
Generally, yes, and I think that's what we in the industry have been working to create. I think you're right to make the distinction and focus especially on, say, images, video, audio files. There's a standard called C2PA that we and a number of companies now have been advancing. It has content credentials. It enables people to know where something was created, who created it, and I think you're right to know whether it was created by a person, by AI, or a person with the help of, say, AI.
I just want to use sort of common language, not the language that all of you use or that we've all learned to use. When you talk about the data as one of the three elements that makes a model work, data really is intellectual property. It is human innovation, human creativity. And I do think we may have a disagreement, and I agree with Senator Klobuchar about the need to understand that these models have been trained on data, but what we're really talking about is human achievement all the way up to now. And I have a deep worry. Look, I'm actually an optimist in the energy space and the public service space. Certainly in health innovation, there are a lot of really exciting opportunities here, but we got to pay people for their knowledge. And I am concerned that these models are going to be so successful in spitting out what appears to be knowledge that we're going to, on the back end, not pay people for all of the inputs, and we will have a sort of stalling out of these models. And you talked about attention, but I'm trying to figure out what the tension really is, other than you'd like to pay as little as possible for these inputs. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Well, you had me until the last sentence.
I know.
Hey, look, we create intellectual property. We respect intellectual property. So we're emphatically of the view that intellectual property and the creation of it should be rewarded. Ultimately, intellectual property laws are always about drawing the line. It's really the line that you referred to. In copyright, there is expression that is protected. If you write a book and somebody copies it, then you are entitled to be paid. But there are ideas. If someone reads your book, if someone remembers that Shakespeare wrote a story about two teenagers who fell in love,
sure, then that's fair use.
Then that's fair use. That's why this country and
that's
Congress
where the
created it. That's what we need to focus on.
With your permission, Chairman, I want to ask one final question.
Proceed.
Thank you. I'm actually quite excited about the prospect that in 20 years, people are going to say, remember when you had to wait on the phone to talk to Kaiser Permanente or the VA? So I just, maybe Mr. Altman and Mr. Smith, I want you to, a buddy of mine used to say, paint a picture and paint me in it, okay? For the government actually delivering services, I want you to describe what an AI agent or AI can do to kind of reduce those pain points that we accept as a fact of life in interacting with the government. It seems to me so much of what makes us irritated with the government is the lack of sorting data that exists somewhere, but we can't get access to it. So just very quickly, you have 15 seconds each for some cheerleading.
I can imagine a future where the U.S. government offers a AI-powered service that makes it really easy to use all government services to get great healthcare, to get great education. You have this thing in your pocket, and if you have any medical problem, you get an answer. If you need to, like appeal something on some process you're having with the government or file your taxes or whatever, you just do it instantly. You have an agent in your pocket fully integrated with the United States government, and life is easy.
Anything to add?
Remember when you had to stand in line to renew your driver's license? Remember when you didn't know how to report a pothole that needed to be repaired on your street? Remember when you had a fender bender in a car and you had to fill out all these forms and talk to all these people to get insurance coverage? Now you can do it all with one AI system. You can use your phone. And by the way, you can do this today in Abu Dhabi. We need to bring it to America.
Thank you.
Senator